At first, I thought I was just being forgetful. A missing $5 bill? No big deal. A protein bar gone from the pantry? Maybe I ate it and forgot. I've always been a little scatterbrained, so it was easy to brush off the small things. But then it kept happening. I remember the moment I knew something wasn't right. I had tucked a $20 bill into the side pocket of my purse, planning to use it for coffee that week. The next morning, it was gone. I emptied the entire bag onto my bed, receipts, lip balm, headphones. Everything was there except the 20. I told myself I must have spent it and forgotten. I checked my bank transactions to be sure. Nope. I hadn't used cash at all that week. Then I started paying attention. Food I had just bought would go missing overnight, like an entire pack of eggs, gone, when I knew I hadn't used them. My favorite hoodie, the one I kept on the coat rack by the door, disappeared for days and then mysteriously reappeared, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. At first, I didn't want to suspect Alex. She was my roommate, my friend. She had a bit of a reckless streak, constantly overspending, partying on weekends, always complaining about being so broke, but I never thought she'd steal from me. She had this effortless charm, the kind that made people want to believe in her. She could talk her way out of parking tickets, convince guys to buy her drinks all night, and somehow never get in trouble for skipping rent payments by a few days. But then she started acting weird. Avoiding my eye whenever I brought up money. Getting strangely defensive when I casually asked, "Hey, did you see my charger anywhere?" She always had an excuse. Always a little too quick to explain things away. The final straw came one night when I was getting ready for bed. I had left my wallet on my desk, open, with a few 20s inside. As I was turning off my lamp, I glanced toward my door, just in time to see Alex, standing there, watching. The second she noticed I saw her, she laughed nervously and mumbled something about needing to borrow toothpaste. That was when I knew. Alex wasn't just careless with money. She was taking mine. And if she had been doing it for this long without me noticing, how much had she really stolen? That night, I lay awake, my mind racing. I wasn't going to let this slide. I needed proof. I was going to catch her. I woke up the next morning with a sense of determination. If Alex had been stealing from me, I wasn't just going to call her out. I was going to make sure there was no way she could deny it. The charm that got her out of parking tickets and free drinks wouldn't work this time. She had spent too long getting away with things, too long making people believe whatever story she spun. But I wasn't just anybody. I was the person she had been stealing from. And I was going to make damn sure she paid for it. I started with the bait. Money had been disappearing, but it was always small amounts, just enough to make me question whether I'd spent it myself. This time, I wanted to see if she'd take something bigger. I went to the ATM and withdrew a crisp $100 bill. Before placing it anywhere, I carefully marked it. A tiny blacked, in the bottom right corner, small enough that it wouldn't be noticeable unless someone was actively looking for it. Then, I took my time deciding where to leave it. If I placed it too obviously, it might scare her off. Too hidden, and she might not find it. Finally, I settled on my desk drawer. It was the perfect spot, partially open, with a few scattered papers and receipts inside. The money looked natural there, like something I had carelessly tossed in and forgotten about. I made a mental note of exactly how I left it, down to the slight fold in the bill. But I needed more than just missing money. I needed proof. I remembered an old webcam I had tucked away in my drawer, a cheap one I had used for online classes a while back. I dug it out, plugged it into my laptop, and set it up carefully on my bookshelf, nestled between two stacks of books. The angle was perfect. It had a clear view of my desk, the drawer, and the surrounding area. If Alex came into my room and so much as touched my things, I'd catch it on camera. Still, I needed to be sure she would take the bait. That meant giving her an opportunity, one she wouldn't be able to resist. That night, while we sat in the living room watching some mindless reality show, I casually mentioned that I had a late shift at work the next day. I stretched my arms over my head, letting out a fake yawn. "Ugh, I won't be home until at least midnight," I said, as if it were just another annoyance in my day. I didn't even look at her when I said it, just sipped my tea and kept my focus on the TV. For a split second, just a fraction of a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. An involuntary reaction, so quick that if I hadn't been watching, I might have missed it. A slight raise of her eyebrows, a quick shift of her eyes, like a reflex she hadn't had time to control. Then, just as quickly, she covered it up. "Oh, that sucks," she said, her voice smooth, practiced. I felt my stomach twist. I knew that look. That second of interest, that flash of thought before she caught herself. I had her. I forced myself to act normal, to keep up the conversation like nothing was wrong. But inside, my pulse was racing. I could already picture it. Alex waiting until she thought I was gone, sneaking into my room, rifling through my desk. And this time, she wouldn't just be taking my money. She'd be caught in the act. That night, lying in bed, I felt a strange mix of nerves and anticipation. I was scared of what I might find, but more than that, I was angry. Angry that someone I had trusted, someone I had let into my space, had been stealing from me and lying to my face. Tomorrow, I'd have my answer. And if Alex was really the thief I suspected her to be, she had no idea what was coming. The next day felt like the longest shift of my life. Every time I glanced at the clock, my stomach twisted with anticipation. Was Alex in my room right now? Was she searching through my things, taking my money with that same smug confidence she always carried? I imagined her rifling through my desk, fingers sliding over my belongings like she had a right to them. The thought made my hands clench into fists. I forced myself to act normal when I left that morning, locking my bedroom door like I always did. But I had made sure of one thing: I left the lock slightly loose. If Alex had been sneaking into my room before, she'd know how to jiggle it open with a card. I wanted to see if she'd try. The plan was simple. I'd finish my shift, come home, check the money, and if it was missing, watch the footage. But as I walked through my front door that night, I already knew something was off. The air felt different. The apartment was quiet, but not the usual kind of quiet. It was too still, like the walls were holding their breath. My room was exactly as I left it, nothing obvious out of place, no signs of forced entry. But when I stepped inside and opened my desk drawer, my heart stopped. The money was gone. For a moment, I just stared at the empty space where the crisp $100 bill had been. A strange numbness spread through my body, as if my mind was still trying to convince itself there was another explanation. But there wasn't. I had made sure everything was in its exact place, and now the bait was gone. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking slightly as I turned on my laptop. The motion-detecting software had done its job. There was a new video file waiting for me, time-stamped from earlier that evening. I clicked play. The screen flickered to life, and there she was, Alex, walking into my room like she owned the place. She didn't even hesitate. She went straight for my desk, her movements quick, practiced. This wasn't the first time she'd done this. My stomach twisted as I watched her pull open the drawer, fingers brushing through my papers before plucking out the $100 bill. She examined it for a second, then pocketed it without a second thought. But then, something I hadn't expected. She didn't leave right away. Instead, she glanced around the room, as if checking for anything else she could take. My breath caught as I watched her reach for my spare house key, the one I kept hidden beneath a stack of notebooks. She picked it up, turned it over in her hand, and then slipped it into her pocket. My heart pounded. This wasn't just about stealing money anymore. She wasn't taking something small, something easy to brush off. She had stolen my house key. Why? I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. Was she planning to come back when I wasn't home? Had she done this before? Suddenly, all the missing things, the food, the clothes, the personal items, made even more sense. She hadn't just been taking money. She had been testing boundaries, seeing what she could get away with. And now, she had a way to come and go whenever she wanted. I swallowed hard, my hands tightening into fists. Alex thought she was untouchable. She thought I'd never figure it out. She had no idea what was coming next. I sat there, staring at the paused footage on my laptop screen, my hands trembling with a mixture of rage and something colder, disgust. Alex had crossed a line I hadn't even realized existed. Taking money was one thing, but stealing my house key? That wasn't just petty theft. That was premeditated. That was calculated. I had always assumed she was just careless, reckless, bad with money, but this felt different. What had she planned to do with it? I played the video again, watching every second with an eerie detachment, as if I were an investigator analyzing evidence. Her movements were so casual, so comfortable, like she had done this before. And maybe she had. Maybe I hadn't just been missing money. Maybe she had been inside my room on nights I thought I was alone. That thought made my skin crawl. I needed to confront her. But not right away. Not in anger. If I had learned anything from living with Alex, it was that she thrived in chaos. She was a smooth talker, a manipulator. If I stormed into her room screaming, she'd twist the situation, gaslight me, make me feel like I was the crazy one. No, I had to control this. So I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and planned my next move. I waited until the next evening when Alex was lounging on the couch, scrolling on her phone, legs casually draped over the armrest. She looked so relaxed, so unbothered, completely unaware that the ground beneath her was about to collapse. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice casual as I walked in. "We need to talk." She glanced up, her expression unreadable. "What's up?" I pulled my phone from my pocket, turned the screen toward her, and hit play. The color drained from her face as she watched herself on camera, rifling through my desk, taking my money, stealing my key. She didn't even try to hide her reaction. Her lips parted slightly, her fingers tightening around her phone. I paused the video just as she slipped the key into her pocket. "Wanna explain this?" For a long, tense second, she said nothing. Then she laughed. Not an embarrassed chuckle. Not a guilty, nervous giggle. A full-on laugh, as if I had just shown her something ridiculous. "Oh my God, are you serious?" she said, rolling her eyes. "You set up a freaking camera? Wow, that's..." "I swear to God, Alex, don't even start." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "Don't gaslight me. Don't try to lie. I have it all on video. So just tell me why." She scoffed, leaning back into the couch like this was all just an inconvenience to her. "Jesus, it was just a little cash. You're acting like I broke into your bank account." I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. "And the key? What were you planning to do with that?" She didn't answer right away. For the first time, something flickered in her eyes, hesitation, calculation. Then, just as quickly, she waved her hand dismissively. "I don't know. Maybe I was gonna make a copy in case I locked myself out. You know how our landlord is about spare keys." My stomach twisted. That was a lie. I had known Alex long enough to recognize when she was bullshitting. She wasn't talking to convince me, she was talking to buy herself time. Time for what? I took a step closer. "Give it back." Alex rolled her eyes, but reached into her pocket, pulling out the key and tossing it onto the coffee table. It landed with a sharp clink, a tiny object that suddenly felt like the heaviest thing in the room. But I wasn't done yet. I crossed my arms, my voice deadly calm. "Pack your shit, Alex. You're done." For the first time, real panic flashed across her face. "What?" "You heard me. I'm done playing games. You're out." She sat up, her voice turning sharp. "Okay, calm down. You don't have to be so dramatic." I cut her off. "I already talked to the landlord." Another lie, but one I delivered with absolute confidence. "You're in violation of the lease." I showed them the footage. They agreed. "You're gone by the end of the week." Her expression darkened. "You wouldn't." I smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Try me." Silence. For the first time since I had met her, Alex had nothing to say. And that silence? That was my victory. Alex sat there, her jaw clenched so tight I thought she might crack a tooth. I had seen her pull herself out of bad situations before, had watched her lie her way out of trouble with a perfectly timed eye roll or a well-placed joke. But this time, she wasn't getting away with it. This time, I was the one holding all the cards. For a few seconds, she just stared at me, her mind clearly racing for a way out. "Look," she finally said, her voice softer now, calculated. "I get it, okay? I screwed up. I'll pay you back. I'll even pay extra if that's what you want. I almost laughed. She still thought she could buy her way out of this. I don't want your money, Alex, I said coldly. I want you out. Her face twitched with irritation, her patience wearing thin. Come on, you're really gonna kick me out over this? We've been roommates for 2 years. You're gonna throw all that away over a little cash. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. It's not just the money. It's the key. It's the fact that I don't even know how many times you've done this before. How many other things you've taken. How many times you've gone through my room when I wasn't here. That shut her up. For the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes, something that looked a lot like guilt. But it was too late for guilt. I don't care what excuses you come up with, I continued, my voice steady. By the end of the week, you're gone. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to argue. Just leave. Alex's lips pressed into a thin line, her fingers gripping her phone so hard her knuckles turned white. But she knew she had lost. The act was over. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Fine. Whatever. She stood up, brushing past me as she stomped toward her room. You want to act like a crazy bitch over this? Go ahead. But don't expect anyone to have your back after this. You're gonna regret this. I let out a slow, humorless laugh. You mean like how I regret letting you move in? Too late for that. She slammed her door. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, my body still buzzing with adrenaline. But I wasn't done yet. I had one last thing to do. While she was in her room sulking, I grabbed my laptop and sent the security footage to our mutual friends. Nothing dramatic, just a simple message. Hey, just a heads up, this is why I'm kicking Alex out. I attached the video and hit send. And then I waited. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing with reactions. Wait, what the hell? She really stole from you? I knew she was sketchy, but damn. That's messed up. Glad you're getting rid of her. By the time Alex finally emerged from her room the next morning, the damage had already been done. She barely looked at me as she grabbed her keys and left, but I saw her check her phone on the way out, and I saw the way her face paled as she read the messages. I didn't care what excuses she gave them. People knew now. She couldn't spin this into some crazy roommate story. She had been caught, and she had no one to blame but herself. The best part? A few days later, I got a message from a friend who worked at a cafe Alex had been trying to get a job at. Guess who just got rejected from a barista job because of bad references, winky face. I smiled as I deleted the text. Alex thought she could take from me and walk away unscathed. She was wrong.